Welcome to the Backfield Buzz podcast, a part of the Hive Podcast Network. As always, Cody Wiles, Logan Glover, and Andrew Foster here, keeping you up to date, all things NFL, baby. Week 2 in the books. How are we thinking about this week of football, fellas? Well, what do we think, Glover?
Yeah,
Ravens
well,
fan?
I think me and Frost were at least I'm not alone this week. We're in the same boat after the week we had, and we play each other this week 3, so should be fun. I'm excited to watch Micah Parsons just eat Lamar Jackson alive. But yeah, another week where it could have been better, but it was slightly better than week 1 for me.
I will say at least the majority of the biggest favorites this week didn't have a great game.
Yeah.
So it kind of like nullifies the fact that Dallas got dog walked by Derek Carr and you guys lost to Gardner Minshew.
For the
It's
second year in a row at home. That's back-to-back years that's happened at home to Gardner Minshew.
oh
It was the
man.
Colts last year. We blew a lead to them and lost in overtime. Oh, brutal. Oh.
Well, I promise we won't just talk about these two suckers as teams losing. We're going to recap majority of week 2, everything that matters. Doing some superlatives, week 2, and I still don't know how to say it.
We'll
Uh,
get them eventually.
all right. So let's just hop right into it. I was thinking maybe I'll start with a little Texans banner, only team that's 2-0 in on the podcast, but I'll save the propaganda for later because I have some numbers. I have some numbers. All right. Superlatives. Let's start with the best game. Frosty, definitely not the Cowboys game, but what are we? Sorry. I thought I got Glover in there once, so I thought I would even the playing field. All right. Best game. Let's start there. What did you enjoy the most?
I think it was Falcons Eagles. In prime time. Personally, I loved watching the Eagles blow the lead. A couple of questionable coaching decisions from Nick Sirianni again. I didn't personally think Jalen Hurts had his best game, but he was dynamic on the ground. And Kirk Cousins on that last drive, that's the first sign of Minnesota Kirk Cousins that we've got so far in Atlanta. And it looks dangerous if he's going to be able to step into his throws properly like that.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I'd love to debate the best game of the week, but there really wasn't that many great games, and this was by far the best. And yeah, Kirk looked amazing on that drive. I watched the clip of the Manning cast going over that last drive live, and the thing they pointed out, which is actually I never really thought of, is the reason he looked so good is because it's hurry up offense. It feels natural for a team, for a new quarterback in a new situation, because it's your favorite plays. You know what you're doing. The receivers all know these plays as well as anyone else. It's just exactly what you want to do. You control this whole offense right here, and you saw it. Kirk was airing the ball out, hitting his targets well. It looked really, really dynamic, especially being that they couldn't move the ball through the air at all in the first 3 quarters and 12 minutes. Like, and then they came out and they lit it up in that on that one drive there.
20 of 29, 241 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Kirk with a rating of 117. Outperformed Jalen Hurts, large thanks to, that final drive. But hey, he put the primetime Kirk, he put those allegations to bed. I mean,
Ah.
he's now 4-10 on Monday Night Football specifically, but we're improving. Yeah, you guys are right. Not much else for you would think with all these upsets there'd be some good games, but it's been a very weird year for offense to start. I'm not sure if teams are just, slow to the curve this year or what. I know usually offense starts off slow, but there's numbers like the passing touchdowns are way down. I think overall points scored are way down. Bengals and Chiefs was a pretty good one though. I will say. I think it deserves a shout out. Of course, the Chiefs squeezing one out. I just at this point, like if Kansas City's in a one-score game and you're letting them hang around, they're gonna win. Like if KC's in the fourth quarter, like I at this point, they're gonna win. Pat Mahomes, though, they won without Patrick Mahomes, 151 yards, 18 to 25, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. What's going on with Mahomes?
That was it was enjoyable to see, but that was the worst game I think I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes play. He was bad. And the 2 picks were really ill-advised throws. He's got 3 picks this year. all three are throws he should not be making. Like the Canfield to Britt one, an amazing catch. That was crazy. But he was locking up Xavier Worthy. There was nothing open for Worthy to make that catch. He had no separation. He's not a jump ball guy. He's not going to win that jump ball. So it was really interesting. And they also had a pick called back earlier in the game as well. So not a lot, but I also want to shout out Trent McDuffie, who locked up Jamar Chase that game and threw him into a tantrum at the end. That was also enjoyable to watch. As I hate both teams.
That's no back-to-back weeks because Jamar Chase got locked up by Christian Gonzalez last week too. That's not a good look for him. He missed a lot of practice, so maybe it's coming back to bite him a little bit now, and he's not able to get the wheels going the way that he thought he would at the start of the year. But yeah, like you said, Patrick Mahomes, the Bengals are really, if Patrick Mahomes were to have a kryptonite, it would be the Bengals, I think. That's the closest thing that you can say. I mean, he's still 3-2 against them, but the stats aren't all that great for him in his career. Like it's a weird one because even their defense plays well against the Bengals, but somehow that Bengals defense just knows how to get to Patrick Mahomes and make him uncomfortable with his game.
Yeah, I think that's a narrative that kind of gets slipped. And we always look at that matchup, Bengals Chiefs are always like, oh, it's Burrow's Mahomes' kryptonite. No, the Bengals defense is what wins the most of those games. They played very, very well. You mean the secondary was amazing. Travis Kelce was almost a non-factor, and Trey Hendrickson was dominant. He was breaking up plays constantly. So this Bengals defense really picks it up when they play the Chiefs.
I believe Joe Burrow, they were saying on the broadcast of that game, Joe Burrow was on the Kelsey podcast with Travis and Jason, and he was basically saying they are built to beat the Chiefs, which and you look at over the years, the games have been super tight. Kansas City coming out on top, which I mean is nothing unexpected in general. Pacheco goes down with an injury after a pretty solid game from him, regardless, even though he didn't find the end zone. Um, any other games that we can really point to for best game? Like there were a couple of tight ones, like Raiders Ravens was a 3-point game. Commanders Giants was a 3-point game. Seahawks Patriots was a 3-point game. Like our these really weren't like high octane offensive games that like would fit into the category of best game, but really no games have been.
Like those games you mentioned were close, but they were still sloppy football. They weren't good games. They weren't back and forth, dominant games, both teams playing at the top of their game and putting on a show. These teams just aren't performing very well so far. Like the game I would put as a three, like Bucks Lions was pretty solid, but again, neither offense really found their footing, but it was still a good game that came down to the last drive.
Yeah, Bucks Lions was my three as well, behind the Falcons and the Chiefs games. So it was there's a difference between some of the low scores are because of bad offense, and some of the low scores are because of good defense. And it's trying to figure out which one of those happened in that game for what made it a good game versus a bad game. Because you could have a 22-21 game be the best game of the week and the worst game of the week at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like a Giants Commanders where the Commanders didn't even score a touchdown. I know the Giants, there's some sort of cherry pick stat about, I think what the first team to score 3+ touchdowns and the other team to
And
not score a touchdown and still lose, first team
yeah,
ever.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, me and Glover were kind of talking about it. Like, Gano's hurt. This doesn't happen if Gano's there.
Yeah.
It's funny for all the memes and stuff, but they couldn't hit an extra point all night. They couldn't. They could have easily taken 2 field goals, I believe. They just didn't have a kicker, so they're forced to go for it. Besides the point, Giants are going to giant it up. If they knew he was going to be hurt, like I believe he was banged up all week too, and they didn't bring in a kicker.
Yeah. I think he was only declared out though in warmups. I think something happened in warmups to take him out of the game. And now he's on IR. So obviously it was something's pretty serious. But yeah, I don't know. It's the Commanders got gifted that one. That one, the Giants were the better team. They could have had multiple chances to win it, but they didn't because they didn't have a kicker.
All right. Well, we're talking Giants Commanders, so that means we're getting close to talking about the worst game. I'm assuming these two teams will be involved in some superlative worst game talk all year. Where were we thinking worst game? Lots of good options. Lots of good options, Frosty.
I'm going Steelers Broncos. I mean, that was just a travesty of an offensive football game. That Justin Fields somehow, against the better will of the football gods, is winning football games right now. I have no idea how he's doing it, but this Steelers defense looks so good. Like the Steelers front seven, their entire defensive core, they might have the best defense in football once again after taking like a 1 year hiatus from being the best defense in football.
Yeah, that game was just ugly. Like, oh, just nothing. Like the one touchdown, it was Darnell Washington. It's like just bad football. But for me, I'm gonna go Rams Cardinals. That game was just like it was a blowout so fast, and it was just boom, lose all interest. And I think there's the one fan base that has it worse than some of these teams that have been getting upset, like the Ravens, is the Rams. Your team is just destroyed already. You've got three O linemen on IR. Your top two receivers are out multiple weeks. Stafford's probably banged up. Let's be honest here with how much he's getting hit. It's bad. And you just got destroyed by the Cardinals, who look really good. There's a world where I thought the Rams were the second best team in that division easily. They might be the worst with the way the season's unfolding for them. Injuries adding up. Cardinals looking really good. Kyler Murray played like a top 10 quarterback, made some crazy plays. And when you get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved in the offense looks a whole lot better. Like, it's not just that Marvin Harrison Jr. was better and that he was scoring all the points. He didn't have a catch after the first quarter, but the Rams had to focus on him. They couldn't just leave him alone, and it opened up Trey McBride. It opened up the run game. That's what a elite receiver will do for your team.
Yeah, we can save the Marvin Harrison talk for maybe best rookie. I think he might be in contention for that. I'm not sure. I'm gonna give it Chargers Panthers. I mean 26-3. Like this Carolina offense was terrible. Once again, unsurprisingly, news coming in that Bryce Young is now benched. And I don't want to distract too much from the superlative talk, but I feel like we should talk about this because it's an interesting talking point, and I've been seeing a lot of people chiming in on social media, whether it be players, coaches, other media members. What's going on here? Is this the right call, wrong call? Glover, I'll go to you because if maybe we'll have to pop up a flashback. If anybody recalls, I believe the quote was Panthers could sneaky make the playoffs. Was that the quote, Frosty? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it was either Panthers could sneaky make the playoffs or the Panthers could sneak into the playoffs. But somehow you had Panthers and playoffs in the same
In the
statement.
same sentence, yeah. So I'll start it off with a disclaimer. I'm walking back my Panther stock. They suck. They're terrible. They're the worst team in the football. They might be the worst team I've ever watched in my life. There's a good chance they go 0-17. This team sucks. I'm sorry. That was wrong. I should not have even given them a win. That was embarrassing. They're so terrible. So that I just want to get that out of the way. But it's so tough. And I'd love to see the alternate reality where CJ Stroud's a Carolina Panther and Bryce Young's a Houston Texan, just to see if the Panthers are just such a dysfunctional organization, they can't do anything right, or if Bryce Young's truly the problem. And I think we'll get a good look at that with Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton can move this offense and at least score some points or make a game competitive in any sense, Bryce Young is obviously not where you want him to be. But if Andy Dalton has the same issues, Andy Dalton's not anything, but it helps you go, okay, Bryce Young's not the only problem. This defense sucks. The O-line's bad. The receivers are not doing anything to help. It's just a bad team. And yeah, I'm not ready to jump into the camp of giving up on Bryce Young, but I think it's not a bad idea to bench him. I think it's, let him just take a step back, get his confidence back, because he is not confident on that field. But he also shouldn't be, because he's not his athletic skills just aren't showing at the NFL level that he had in college. And it's just nothing of his game looks redeeming. You can look at Anthony Richardson, who had a really bad week this week, but you can still look at that and go, man, the arm talent looks really good. He should have honed in on the accuracy. The run game is always there for him. The athletic ability's there. But you look at Bryce Young and you're like, the accuracy's not there. The power's not there. He's not reading defense as well. His footwork's off. He's bad in the pocket. He's not being able to escape. He's not able to use his athletic traits that were so good in college. He's got nothing redeeming right now. I think it's good to just let him take a step back and take a breather because it's not looking good.
I think that's the problem, and I'm more on the side of I think Bryce Young. I don't think the Panthers are not the problem, but I definitely don't think Bryce Young isn't the problem either because he was he was an elite quarterback in an elite system when he was at Alabama. He's now he doesn't have any superstar traits, like you said. The power, no. The accuracy, no. And the athleticism, he was one of the more athletic players in college. When you get to the NFL, it's all of the most athletic players in college are now playing against you. You're playing those guys every single night. So I think the athleticism, he's just not at the level that he has to be to make up for the lack of arm talent, the lack of size and the lack of talent around him. And I think that's what's contributing to Bryce Young just simply not being able to live up to any amount of hype that could have possibly been given to him in college. And I don't know if a change of scenery is even enough for him at this point. I I think Bryce Young needs to sit for a good couple games and try and get out of his own head and realize you're playing with the best players in the world. You're not playing a Tennessee State. You're not playing Alabama A&M anymore. Like you are the Alabama A&M of the NFL. You like the roles have switched a little bit.
Here's the conclusion I've come to on Bryce Young. A lot of them I'm about to say, at least from Bryce Young's technical standpoint, is from JT O'Sullivan at the QB school. I watch all his videos. He breaks down quarterback play. He does a great job. I would recommend checking him out. What's been going on with Bryce? Uh, Inaccuracy. He's not getting all his cleats into the ground when he throws. He's as JT points out, only QB to like play on his toes, which sounds like a good thing, but he's just missing dudes because he has to play on his toes, whether that's because he's his stature, whether it's just a fundamental thing, maybe regardless, his posture is always leaned back when he's throwing as well. And something that he needs to be good at is scrambling and getting out of the pocket with his size. That's players like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray have done all their career and have succeeded. It's needed. When he gets out there, he's just missing and he's inaccurate, sailing dudes over balls' heads, just nowhere near. And that needs to be part of your game. I think Andy Dalton's going to look better. I don't think the Panthers are going to be anything crazy, but I think he's going to look better. Uh, Now you could make the argument, oh, the receivers and the O line have failed him. Bryce Young faced pressure on only 4 of his 29 dropbacks this week. That was the lowest rate among all starting quarterbacks. There's something to be said about it might be Bryce. I now not a good situation by any means, right? Could definitely use more help, but based on what we've seen, there's fundamental errors with what Bryce Young is doing. At least last week he got the protection. I'd have to find the numbers for week one. Like, compare that to Caleb Williams, who faced pressure. He didn't face pressure on only one snap last week. One dropback he didn't face or wasn't registered as a pressure, and he looked better than Bryce Young. It's
That's actually an insane stat.
it is. It is. There's something about see, I told you I brought some Texas numbers.
I think that's
But
more of a Bears number, to be honest. I think it's a Bears number.
I mean, I choose to look at it as a Texas number, but it's honestly probably more concerning if you're a Bears fan than it is hype for the Texans because that O line is a mess. Regardless, the O line was decent. I think it's hard to know unless you're Bryce's size standing in the pocket. But as JT points out in the film eval, he does. It just looks like he's missing some guys. It just looks like he's missing some reads, open guys. So we'll see. Like I forget which one of you guys mentioned it. Probably a good thing that he's benched regardless. Um, did you guys see who this came from? I know Dave Canales said the day before he got benched that Bryce Young's the QB. We're gonna take a look at the film, something like that. Then the next day he gets benched. I feel like there's a bit weird thing going on too with that.
It's if your coach after a bad game says he's our quarterback, you're toast. You're toast. You're benched. There's no question. We see it all the time. Like you look at Josh Rosen back in the day, he was like they came out after the season. Josh is our guy. We're not going to take a quarterback. Josh is our guy. Kyler Murray. You know, if your quarterback, if your coach is out here, not defending you on the podium, simply saying he's our quarterback, you're not their quarterback.
Yeah, and there was a report that Bryce Young felt blindsided by this and he didn't know where it came from.
Well,
He just had under 100 yards on like 27 attempts, I think it was. Like, yeah, like he 26 attempts for 84 yards. I mean, we can't be doing that and think that your starting job is going to be safe for a long period of time. I Even if they didn't talk to Bryce Young first, I think that's a little bit on the franchise and on the coaching staff. But you also just can't be blind if you're Bryce Young. You have to see what's going on too on the field.
I, I can tell you where it came from. Like 18 for 26, 84 yards with an interception. That's where it came from. That's not a stat line of a starting quarterback. It just isn't.
And honestly, the organization has just been such a failure. Like they traded Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Brian Burns, all former first round picks while they were 26 years old or younger. And I mean, we could get into the Bryce Young trade specifically, but if you combine the Brian Burns, Bryce Young, and just Christian McCaffrey trades, I guess the DJ Moore is involved in that. The Panthers traded the first overall pick, or Caleb Williams, however you want to consider that, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, a 2023 first round pick, which was top 10, 2023 second round pick, a 2024 first round pick, and a 2025 first round pick in exchange for Bryce Young, DJ Johnson, who was PFF's 125th highest grade edge, two round five picks, and a 1 year rental of Burns. They have completely tanked their over these last couple of years. The Panthers have absolutely destroyed their franchise, and now they're trying to pick up the pieces. And the Bryce Young benching is just the ultimate cap in the feather.
I think that the big one to look at that's really just a huge fumble on the organization that there's no one you can blame but the GM and the ownership is the Brian Burns. At the deadline, I don't think it was this deadline before this offseason, like till the 2023 season. I think it was the 2022 deadline. They had an offer from the Rams that had at least one first round pick.
It was three.
It
They
was
had,
three firsts?
I
Okay,
believe they
I
turned
read
down
that.
three first round picks for Brian Burns, and they
Yeah.
ended up whatever they
Then
got for him from
less than a first. They got a couple seconds, I think, from New York. That's just abysmal asset management. You can't expect to have a quarterback succeed when that's what you're doing with your roster. Like, sure, they could, I would love to see what CJ Stroud would have done with this roster because it has been terribly constructed. You traded away your star running back who wasn't healthy and wasn't doing much for you, but you didn't get a first for him. You traded for a bunch of mid-round picks. And it's great in theory to trade for the first overall pick, but Bryce Young was never he was not a world-class prospect like Caleb Williams is. He wasn't like this elite have to get, and you traded your number one receiver and two first-round picks for him. That in itself isn't a great deal. Before we saw what Bryce Young was going to be. And the Bears made out like bandits. DJ Moore's an elite receiver.
remind me, David Tepper came in last year, right? And he was involved in that trade.
Tepper's
I'm
been
not
there
sure.
for a while.
Or has Tepper been there for a while? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's say that's our worst team conversation as well to keep things on track here,
Yeah.
because I mean, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's
There's
do we need do we
no
want
other option.
Frosty, do you want to touch on another worst team? I mean, if you want to go on a little Cowboys rant, the floor is yours, but we can move on if you guys are
I mean,
good.
I think the Panthers are the clear cut worst of the worst right now. I don't think close. The Cowboys were abysmal last week, but I also want to shout out the Broncos because wow, they're bad. Good God. And
Yep.
Bo Nix is not the savior, unfortunately.
Yeah. A lot of disappointing teams this week. Like a lot of bad teams like the Broncos and Panthers, but a lot of disappointing teams like the Ravens and Cowboys and Niners and Dolphins. Yeah, rough week for some of these teams.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's we did the best game, worst game, kind of morphed that into the worst team as well. Let's go to the best team. Who do you guys think looked the best? Like you said, it was a very interesting week, Glover. Just with a lot of favorites disappointing. I believe there was 8 favorites who dropped. I'm that could just be pulling that out of my behind. But who do you think looked the best? Who are you giving best team week 2?
I'm going Arizona. That was an impressive showing against a beat up Rams team, but still a good Rams team. The defense is really what stood out to me. They looked really, really solid. They capitalized on what the Rams were missing, which was O-line. Dennis Gardeck had 3 sacks. How? Like there's such an impressive work showing from their defense, and they shut down the run game for the most part. The air attack was quiet, and their offense just looked dynamic. It looked really, really good. Kyler Murray is reminding people of why he was in top 10 conversations before he got hurt. I'm ready to throw him back into that conversation because I had kind of just out of sight, out of mind kind of thing with him for the past couple of years. But he looks amazing. That long touchdown he had where he was scrambling around the pocket, running around for 8 to 10 seconds, and then finally threw it in the back of the end zone. It's amazing. And Marvin Harrison Jr., he was insane. James Conner had 122 rushing yards. There was no weakness for the Cardinals this game. They were the better team at every level than over the Rams.
I mean, Frosty, our best bet. We'll get into that a bit next episode, but I really didn't think the injuries would hit home that hard. And I also didn't expect Pup to go down as well. And now
Yeah,
he's gonna miss a couple weeks, apparently. We'll see if he gets put on IR. Boy, oh boy.
it's ugly. It's ugly in LA right now. I didn't think the O-line problem, like I didn't think Arizona's pass rush was going to be able to, even with all the O-line injuries, I didn't think Arizona's pass rush was going to do all that to them. But
Yeah.
they had them out of sync all day.
Well, did you agree with the Cardinals? Maybe shake it up. Who else looked good to you?
Saints looked all right.
Yeah, you
Saints
gotta
looked okay.
you got a first hand look. Now you're locked into talking about them. Now you gotta see how bad your team was and say how good. Derek Carr and Dennis Allen.
Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak's got that offense rolling.
He Derek Carr attempt. So we just talked about Bryce Young with what was it, 26 attempts for 84 yards. Derek Carr had 16 attempts for 243. Alvin Kamara got 4 total touchdowns. You know, Alvin Kamara's last 2 games against Mike Zimmer, he has 10 total touchdowns now.
Yeah.
This guy just eats Mike Zimmer defenses for breakfast. There is no reason. The Saints' first 6 drives of the game were all touchdowns. 6 straight drives for touchdowns, and they only gave up 1 touchdown in that span, too. It was absolute domination from the Saints from start to finish. They had a perfect offense in the first half, touchdown on every single drive, and then started it in the second half too. I mean, they made the Cowboys look like they are a bottom feeder team in football right now.
I may have the number wrong, but I believe it's the first 13 Derek Carr led drives ended in scores for the Saints this season. That's just insane. Like Derek Carr looks reborn. He looks like 2016, 2018 Derek Carr again. Like it's crazy. Rashid Shaheed's dominating. Like Chris Olave is not even he's good, but he's not being like this elite up end receiver. Rashid Shaheed looks amazing, and Kamara looks great, and the defense looked really, really good too. Like what is up with the Saints? The NFC South, besides the Panthers that we talked about, the NFC South is competitive and not just like competitive with 9 and 8 teams. There's 3 good teams in this division right now.
I need to see more of New Orleans. I'm not buying this quite yet. I think uh beat up on a bad Panthers team in week 1, and then I think they just caught Dallas by surprise. Honestly, like the Shaheed touchdown immediately, it was like the same game plan from week 1. I thought I was seeing deja vu with the Shaheed bomb. Uh, I think they just kind of smacked Dallas in the mouth, and Kamara ran all over them, and that was it. I think it was just they got too far into the hole, and Dallas just couldn't get it back because they were forced to pass all game. And yeah, um, couple other good shout outs that I could go with. Buffalo, really the only good team to beat another good team. Kind of feels like a cop out though, since Tua got hurt, but Buffalo looked good.
Well,
Though Tua, yeah, okay.
Tua
Even
was
though
terrible before he got hurt. Buffalo
true,
dominated that game. They were going to win that whether Tua was playing or not.
Fair enough. James Cook ran all over them, so that's a good shout out. Honestly, some of these upsets like Minnesota, um, Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, I mean that 97-yard touchdown was fantastic. I mean, I'm not even sure if they win the game if that doesn't happen though. Like if that like if San Fran gets a stop there or just doesn't allow that to happen, I think it's maybe a bit of a different game because I mean, honestly, like Mason ran for another 100 yards, Purdy threw for 320, but it just didn't really equate to points. And Minnesota ended up shutting the door on them, which I was more impressed by the defense for Minnesota than anything. And then also a quick little shout out. I mean, yeah, the Falcons. You're just talking about the NFC South, where I sprinkled a little money on them to be the division winner. I was kind of concerned of how good the Buccaneers have looked, beating the Lions too, which is another good shout out. But yeah, these dropping games. Week two always feels like such a trap betting wise, or just like picks in general. Everyone's overreacting from week one, and you don't know what's real and this and that. But I mean, any other general thoughts for you guys on the team and for things?
I think we got most of the big stuff out of there. Like there was a lot of really good bad teams and a lot of really bad good teams. It's just a weird week.
Well, see,
Yeah.
now that's what I mean. Week two is like the trap. So where do we? Well, it's interesting. Like, where are we gonna sit on all these teams? Like, it's maybe a different conversation for a different day. But like, feel great about some teams, don't feel good about some teams. Like, I don't know how to feel about Baltimore, Glover. If I'm honest with you,
Right.
like, I think there's
Welcome to the
legit.
club.
I think there's legit concerns
Damn
there.
straight it is.
And I
Oh
had
no, you
a.
guys are-
Oh, I thought I had a stat for you.
oh, I'm sure I was
I
gonna love it.
I'll I'll get it for you in the next segment. How about that? All right.
Sounds like pain, but sure. I'm sure I'm gonna love this stat.
All right. I got the stat for you, Glover.
I can't wait.
This is for both of you. This is an open-ended question, but I'll start with Glevsy. Since 2021, so since there's been a 17 game schedule, there's been 21 0-2 teams. Okay. So the last 3 years, how long we've had the 17 game schedule, only 21 0-2 teams. How many do you think made the playoffs,
The Bengals when they did it. And that might be it.
Rossi?
I saw the stat during the Eagles Falcons game, so I'm not
Oh,
I'm
Okay, so he's on the same train as me. So three have made the postseason. When they start with 0-2, only four have gone 9-8 or better. The 2021 Colts, the 2022 Bengals, and the 2023 Texans all did it.
You know what I'm
Bit
hearing? It's been one team every year. The team this year is gonna be the Ravens. That's what I'm hearing.
out of the 0-2 teams, if a team was going to do it, it would be the Baltimore Ravens. They'd be the team I would like the best to do it. But it is a bit more like you would think like 15 games left, like so much can shake out, but really like getting off to good starts is super important, and that is not something Baltimore has done. All right. I'm never gonna let you respond. Offensive player, uh definitely nobody on the Ravens, but
Oh
who
my God, just jeez. Brutal. Brutal. I can say it a good day.
you know why I'm saying all this? You guys got to hear this guy off air. He's just always piping up Ravens
Oh.
smoke up our you know what's. All right. Uh give me your player then. Give me your best offensive player, and it better not be Lamar Jackson.
No, it's Alvin Kamara, actually.
Okay.
But I mean, 4 touchdowns, over 100 yards on the ground. He was just unreal. The Cowboys defense had no answer. He looked really, really good. We already talked about that game a little bit. There's no real need to go more into it. But yeah, Kamara looked amazing and he's looked really good so far this season.
Yeah, Kamara's mine too. I got a front row seat to just watching him absolutely dismantle the entire Cowboys defense. It was I also think he might not have had the best stats, I would say, because there's a couple guys that also had really, really, really good games, but I don't think anybody dominated the game like Alvin Kamara did. They attempted 18 passes or 16 passes all game, and they still couldn't stop the run. They knew what was coming and still couldn't stop it all game long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to pick anybody else, but just for the sake of, changing it up a little bit, James Cook, I mean, three touchdowns for himself, 105 yards combined, I believe. So pretty good day from some RBs around the league as well. Another good RB week. I mean, HN was all right. I mean, Gibbs had a couple of nice runs. I mean, Jacobs, I believe led the league in rushing this past week, even though it was on high volume. And the Colts knew it was coming, like the Cowboys did, and still didn't stop it. This Colts team, I mean, it's Malik Willis, but they are getting ran all over. Like Houston did it to them, and this was supposed to be a strength. Their front seven. Now DeForest Buckner hits IR right before we're recording. So it's what do we make of the Colts? Because I have a kind of like I ranted on Bryce Young a little bit there. I mean, I've been saying we need to temper expectations on Anthony Richardson and this offense in general, but the defense was meant to help out, and now they're getting ran on. Malik Willis is passing on them, and then if that's happening and they're only putting up 10 points, I don't know about this Colts team.
It was high volume for Jacobs, but it was also so it wasn't originally just high volume. He opened the game with less than 20 carries and 100 yards. He got to the 100-yard mark really quick, but after a while he started to slow down and they just kept feeding him the ball anyways. But that's back-to-back weeks, I believe, where the Colts have allowed the leading rusher in the NFL in that week. This Colts front is not looking good. But Malik Willis looked like he's not going to win you a game, but he looked serviceable. Like if I'm the Packers, I'm not rushing Jordan Love back, which they seem to be trying to do for some weird reason. But I wouldn't be rushing him back because I think Malik Willis can win you the games that will be winnable. He's going to win you the games you should win. The defense will be good. Jacobs will be good, but 12 for 14, only 122 yards and a touchdown, but efficient, not turning the ball over, not making stupid mistakes, and had 6 rushes for 41 yards. I can live with that as my backup quarterback. I can live with that. And if you're the Colts, though, this is what you should expect from Anthony Richardson. I wouldn't get too down in the dumps in it. I wouldn't think of it as like it's over. He can't do it. You're going to have games like this year. It's truly his first season as an NFL starter. There's going to be growing pains, and he's such a volatile prospect. He's going to have games against the Texans where you see throws you're never going to see again. And you're gonna have games today where he throws 3 picks and has a less than 50% completion percentage.
He had a less than a 50% completion percentage against Houston.
Yeah.
I think this clearly there's gonna be a ton of growing pains
Yeah.
with A-Rich. I don't think anybody would debate that. I think the main thing to remember is this guy's still younger than Jaden Daniels. Like he's one of the most raw quarterback prospects that we've seen in a long time. His ceiling is like astronomical. His floor is starting to look a little bit lower now, but I think that's bound to happen. He's a young kid. He hasn't started very many games at all since high school. So I think just getting him into the flow of staying on the field is going to help a ton in keeping his confidence up and keeping this offense moving because when A-Rich gets settled in and I don't think he's ever going to be the elite pocket passer. I think he's just too athletic to do that. But if he comes out and he becomes like a Jalen Hurts, like a borderline top 10 quarterback guy, I don't think Colts fans can be upset. And I think that's kind of what it's pointing to right now. I think the ceiling's maybe not shrinking, but I think it's looking a little bit more out of reach after the first 2 games than I thought it was at the start of the year.
Yeah, I believe that was only like game 18 or 19 for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a long ways to go.
Yeah. I still believe that he has all the talent in the world, puts it together with the accuracy and the reading of defenses and that sort of stuff, and you'll be looking at an elite quarterback in a couple of years' time.
All right, defensive player of the week. I mean, we had one dominant edge rusher last week. To me, it's Aiden Hutchinson this week. I mean, he was one sack shy of tying the Lions' single game record at 5.5, ends up with 4.5, 4 tackles for loss, 5 QB hits. I mean, he single if I mean they still lost the game, which is shocking for how well he played and how much he disrupted them. But credit to Baker Mayfield, credit to the Bucs. I'm not sure if you guys have anybody else, but I just wanted to say Hutchinson off at the top because it was giving me TJ Watt vibes from last week. But I mean, Hutchinson was even better.
Yeah. There was a couple other solid defenders, but I'm also gonna go Aiden Hutchinson. Like he was one sack shy of the Lions franchise record for a game. Like he was insane. It was just every time the Bucks had the ball, he was in the backfield. Like he just it's unreal to watch. He looked just unstoppable. There was just no stopping him.
Yeah, he looked like an absolute monster. I do want to shout out Fred Warner though. 9 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, a pick, and a sack. Just like a Fred Warner performance, like just all over the field like crazy. Still, to me, the best linebacker in football to the majority of people that aren't wearing a purple colored glasses. So seeing him do that, it's just like I don't know if there was a more impactful player other than either one of those two on either side of the football. And both of their teams somehow still lost.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Uh yeah, pretty clear, pretty easy for defensive player of the year or defensive player of the week. Uh Pretty easy for rookie of the week. Let's maybe we could talk about a couple of the names, but let's have the Marvin Harrison Jr. We kind of touched on him a little bit, but I mean Glover, he after all the talk about throughout the week about Kyler's comments about not my job to look his way. I mean, well, maybe it should be your job because my oh my, Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, an average of 32 and a half yards per catch. Uh, and I mean, like you said, that was all in the first quarter, I believe, first half.
First quarter.
First quarter.
He didn't get a single catch after that.
And I don't know if you guys saw what he said post game. All of Kyler's 4 incompletions were intended to Marvin Harrison Jr., so he still has stuff to clean up, Frosty.
Yeah, I personally, Marv is not my rookie of the week. My rookie of the week is Malik Neighbors.
Fair.
I'll take it, 10 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. So he only had 3 less yards than Marv did. 10 catches with a significantly worse offense. Now, playing a significantly worse defense as well. I because Marv didn't have a single catch after the first quarter, I want to me the guy that's gonna come out every single drive and get you a first down every single time your offense is on the field. I think that's the most impressive thing.
I haven't gotten a chance to look at it, but I'd like to look at the incompletions to Marv to just see whether it was more of the Rams started honing in on him and we're like, okay, they gotta double team this guy. We can't let him just break us wide open again. Or if it was just misses by either Kyler or Marv. But I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like, wow, what a wonder it does when you pay all this money for an expensive Maserati and you start to use it. Oh my God, I can drive fast. My offense looks really good. Shocker. Like it should be your job to get the ball to this guy. He's insane. He's so crazy good. And doing what he did on 4 catches in a quarter against a good defense, it's crazy. It ruined my fantasy week too. That's just a cherry on top for me. But yeah, it's crazy what he did in this game. And it really, again, as I said before, it just opened up that offense to so many more possibilities because they couldn't focus on Trey McBride or James Conner or Kyler scrambling. It just makes that offense a lot better because the defense has to focus so much of their attention to Marv.
Uh, yeah. I started Malik Neighbors a week too early. In our start sits, even though I stand by starting him in week 1, this is exactly what I thought would happen. Brian Thomas Jr. as well, 2 catches for 94 yards. Why is this guy only the third most? Like he was the third most targeted player for the Jaguars in just a brutal game. I mean, Trevor Lawrence also just, I don't know. There's maybe this isn't the time and place for a Trevor Lawrence conversation, but I mean, everybody thought the pop off would be last season. People had high expectations this season, and it hasn't quite gone his way. It wouldn't be backfield buzz without me pushing a little Texans propaganda, though. So for rookie of the week, I also just want to give a little Kamari Lassiter, the second round corner. Got a pick against the Bears. had one also called back, so we could have had two. Uh, a 90.3 coverage grade for PFF. He had 7 targets. He only allowed 2 catches, a zero point 0.0 passer rating allowed. I mean, he was locked down, and I understand the pass rush was making his day a bit easy, but still a good performance nonetheless.
Well, the guy I want to talk about is as like my three because Neighbors would be my second pick for a rookie of the week. Brock Bowers was really good. Really, really good. He turned up. He was pretty quiet in the first half, but he really turned up when the Raiders were running their offense down the field, trying to get back into the game and having to move the ball quickly. Really good down the middle of the field. 9 targets, 9 catches, 98 yards. He was good. He almost had a touchdown too. He was tackled right near the goal line. So yeah, Brock Bowers had a massive game, and him and Devontae Adams are going to be a great duo in Las Vegas, and especially they keep airing the ball out with Gardner Minshew, which is what he likes to do.
Yeah, Brock Bowers right now leads all tight ends in targets, receptions, and yards.
Yeah,
So he's been as advertised as one of the best tight end prospects that we've ever seen. And I'm glad to see the Raiders are using him properly because the most recent generational tight end prospect that we've seen hasn't exactly got that so far.
sure. You didn't like the 26 yards Kyle Pitts had last night? You didn't think he
I
was
I got so excited. The first play of that Kirk game-winning drive was a bullet over the middle to Kyle Pitts, and I was like, "Oh my God, this could be where it starts." Kirk finds his rhythm, he finds Kyle Pitts, and the two of them just march down the field. Didn't see another target the whole time.
Darnell Mooney? That was his target in that drive.
Hey, that could be an option. Mooney for surprise player of the week. So that's where we'll go next. I feel like this category could also be like surprisingly bad.
Oh,
So I want to keep that for future reference. If maybe you guys think of somebody on the spot. I mean, I was trying to think of surprisingly bad, but I don't know. It feels mean. Uh, but all right. Glover, who surprised you? Good or bad?
there's two guys. I'm gonna go with a guy which I think you guys aren't gonna be the one to pick. I'm going Jamarcus Ingram of the Buffalo Bills defense. 2 picks and a pick six against Miami. I don't know who this guy is, to be totally honest. That's why he's my surprise player of the week. I was looking through the box score at the end of the games. I didn't pick up who got those picks for the Bills. Jamarcus Ingram got those picks. He's like 27 years old. This guy just he's he's done not much in his entire career. I think those were his first 2 career interceptions in his seventh game started in his career or seventh game played in his career as a third-year vet, and he had 2 picks and a pick six. That's a pretty good showing for me. I'm gonna go with him for surprise player.
Yeah. That's not bad. I I'm going with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, 12 catches for 117 yards out of absolutely nowhere. Everybody that was complaining about Jackson Smith and Najigba not getting used enough in the Seattle offense can now shut up because good God, this I think he was the most targeted receiver in football last week. Just he and against a Saints or not a Saints a Patriots defense that shut down the Bengals a week ago. He doesn't have Joe Burrow. He's got Geno Smith throwing on the ball, who I also almost picked because he led the league in passing yards this week. Um, but like 16 targets for JSN this week against the Patriots defense. So that was just to me just a dominating performance from him.
Last year with Shane Waldron, the big criticism was he couldn't get multiple receivers involved in the pass game. Ryan Grubb, their new OC, looks amazing at doing that because JSN had that great game. DK Metcalf also had over 100 yards on 10 catches and a touchdown. Like, man, this offense looks good. And as a Ravens fan, it really hurts that Mike Reynolds coaching this team when he could be the Ravens head coach right now. I would absolutely adore that right now. But yeah, this Seahawks team looks good. Like the offense, you knew the defense was going to be better this year with all the improvements they made and what Mike McDonald was going to do for them. But the offense looks much better, which is a little surprising to me.
No, this he didn't have like the greatest stat line, so that might be surprising in that way. But in the context of who's around him, it kind of shocked me a little bit. I mean, Braylon Allen. I mean, maybe could have talked about rookie stuff with him, but I actually don't think we're supposed to have rookies in this. But oh well, I've already gone too
Yeah, I think
far.
you made that rule last week.
I did too. It was me. I'll switch it. Okay. Anyways, Braylon Allen, 56 yards. and two touchdowns. It was just 56 yards combined and two touchdowns. It was just surprising. It wasn't Garrett Wilson getting into the end zone. I guess Breece Hall did have a receiving touchdown, but Breece Hall didn't get it on the ground. It was Braylon Allen. Just just something to monitor.
Is there a little Wisconsin Badger in there a little bit? Just a little
Maybe.
bit?
All right. Let's as I scramble to find a new surprising player. I mean, did anybody think James Conner, like I mean, James Conner's a good player, but did anybody think he was going to run for 122 yards?
He can do well, he can do that. I got one for you.
I got another one too.
All right, let's hear it.
The gritty man himself, Mike Gesicki,
Okay.
gritty Gesicki. I'm interested to hear who you have. Like Gesicki was the best receiver. Uh, 7 catches for 91 yards, 9 targets. He runs like a gazelle. It's the best thing to watch. I mean, we're talking fantasy stuff with tight ends. Like, I know T. Higgins is coming back, but I mean, nobody else had over 5 targets, and Gesicki had 9. So,
Here, I got two more for you because if you want to go tight ends, Hunter Henry had a game against the Patriots.
yep.
The one who I thought was 100% going to be mentioned by somebody, Quentin Johnston. He had 2 touchdowns and was the Chargers' leading receiver. It was the Panthers, so I'm not like holding out if it's going to continue. But when Quentin Johnston is sitting wide open in the end zone, wow,
That's surprising.
wow. Like he made a nice catch on his first touchdown that was wide open in the middle of the end zone in his second touchdown. 6 targets, 5 catches, 51 yards, and 2 tutties. Wow.
That was surprising. That left me speechless.
I I don't think it's going to continue, but it
No,
also is just showing up how bad this Panthers defense is when Quentin Johnson get that much separation.
as a proud Lad McConkey fantasy owner, I pray to God that doesn't continue.
I started him this week, man. I needed to start him, and he was bad this week.
Yep, yep. AJ Brown was out. Lad McConkey worked his way into my lineup for his grand total of 4 points.
Yep. Yep.
Might have to recalibrate our thoughts on these Chargers receivers just because how much they're going to run the ball in general.
True. J.K. Dobbins, baby. I'm I can't help but be happy for the guy. I can't help it.
Well, that's a nice way to end it. Hey, yeah. Just be happy for your guys. Well, that basically does it. I mean, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on? You know, we kind of do this end a little news and notes, but I genuinely feel like we touched on every single game.
Hey,
So I feel pretty good. We didn't really touch on Browns Jaguars. I mean, a little
yeah,
bit, but
that was a messy football game. Another one that was just like gross. To be honest, we didn't talk too much on Bears Texans. But I mean, that game was pretty straightforward. The Bears offense, the O line's so bad. 7 sacks.
yeah, I mean, you could have said it was like a. I mean, from a Texas perspective, they looked solid. It was just a lot of penalties. The offense stalled out to some degree. So there's concerns. They'll clean it up though. I do want to have a Trevor Lawrence conversation. I'm waiting until week 4 though, when Houston and Jacksonville play. I don't know if Frosty has anything on him, but I'm waiting a little bit. But you've heard me already speak a little bit. I don't know what's going on, but there's some thoughts festering in my
I,
little noggin there is.
I will say the best thing that has happened to Trevor Lawrence is Bryce Young looks terrible and Caleb Williams looks terrible because that's the last two number one picks. Nobody's focusing on the fact that Prince Charming can't win a football game right now. Nobody's talking about that.
That's
Trevor
also
Lawrence has lost, I think, his last 7 starts in a row. He's 0-7.
that's also
Nobody's talking about it.
Deshaun Watson looked better than him last week.
Yeah,
that's also just
which
terrible.
is crazy.
But it's also a factor of playing in Jacksonville. Who cares? Like,
Fair.
unless the Jacksonville Jaguars are good, nobody's paying attention to them. So
Remind me, who did they play in week 1?
they played the Dolphins.
The Dolphins.
Defense looked pretty well good against the Dolphins, to be totally honest. They had a solid showing against the Dolphins in week 1. But yeah, the offense is dead in the water right now. Especially like ETN looks inefficient as well, which is what you were not hoping for, but he looks inefficient.
I mean, yeah, Lawrence in week 1, 12 of 21 for 162 yards and a touchdown. We'll we'll resume that conversation for another day. Like I said, thoughts are festering. It's building up. I'm getting ready to let it all out at some point, but I think that'll do it, fellas. Nothing else, hey? Nothing else you want to say about the Ravens, Cowboys? No?
No, I don't want to
Bench,
talk about that anymore.
bench Lele, please, please.
You guys looking
Bench
forward to
Mike
week
Zimmer.
You guys looking forward to week 3? Cowboys got who do you guys got? Oh yeah, you guys play each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
Each
we get
other.
Baltimore.
So I mean, are you guys looking forward to that?
No,
I don't know if I should be. I don't think I should be. I
I I don't think it's possible for me to look forward to a football game after giving up 44 points to Derek Carr.
I could look forward to it, but the image of Micah Parsons throwing Daniel Faalele or Pat McCary, it just keeps rerunning in my brain over and over again, and it kind of makes me sad. I don't like it. Don't
Give
like
me
it.
another game with Mark Andrews at left tackle, maybe.
It would be better. It would be better. Straight up, I'd rather see that.
Well, sounds like you guys aren't excited. I'm excited to watch Houston versus Minnesota. Man,
Nice.
I'm
Must be nice.
hey, I deserve this, as does all the Houston Texans fans who have gone through the ringer for the last half decade, basically. So I can laugh and take my flowers until it's over. Just enjoy the ride, right? All right. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you really liked it, subscribe. Why not, right? It helps us grow the channel. Lots going on in the Hive Podcast Network right now. We got the Backfield Buzz. If you want to check out some general NHL content, check out What's Buzzing. They are back and uploading after a little bit of a hiatus.
A little bit.
If you're more interested in just the Toronto Maple Leafs, new pod launched on the channel, Blue and White Buzz. Go ahead and check that out. Episode 1 is out. Episode 2 along the way. Maybe a couple of other ones in the works as well. Maybe I won't reveal that yet, but that is what we got cooking over here at the Hive Podcast Network. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep it buzzing.